As a Burke Scholar, this year's senior speaker has connected his health sciences curriculum with his deep desire to serve others, both locally and in his semester in South Africa. He is a great representative of the class of 2018. It is now my pleasure to introduce Benjamin Zellmer, degree candidate, Bachelor of Science in the College of Health Sciences.
Students of Jesuit universities must let the gritty realities of this world into their lives so they can learn to feel it, to think about it critically, respond to its suffering, and engage it constructively. Peter Hans Kolvenbach, former Superior General of the Society of Jesus. Some of us have known these gritty realities our entire lives, but many of us have not. The good of a Jesuit education is that it moves us to engage these truths, to become critically active citizens, to be agents of positive social change. The greatest lesson I've learned at Marquette is that God's universe is a moral one, and it bends towards justice. Students of color and others who have risked their lives organizing, educating, and protesting for justice in this country, in this city, and on this campus, you have shown us God at work in our midst. My Marquette experience, and the experiences of many Marquette students who look like me are not the only narratives to share today. As we celebrate these past 4 years of all our students, we also recognize the social movements happening around us and how our Jesuit education calls us to contribute to their progression. We gather in this space this morning, a space of gratitude, learning, and love, and we're surrounded by our families and loved ones, those in attendance and those not, and we thank them for the sacrifices they have made for us to sit in these seats today. For 5 months, I had the blessing to study abroad and live in South Africa, a country formerly defined by apartheid, where silence was once deadly and apathy pathological, necrotic to society. Sometimes I feel like I still live in a country experiencing apartheid. Sometimes I know that I still do. Apartheid in any nation persists in large part because of popular avoidance of societal injustices. Neutrality runs rampant, and neutrality in the face of injustice only perpetuates injustice. As graduates of a Jesuit university, we are committed to a solidarity that acts for the human rights of others, especially the disadvantaged and the oppressed. We are called to resist apathy, resist neutrality, work for the greater good, and yes, that means we will need to find our super suits, run headfirst into the unknown, and use our superpowers to be Incredibles 2. But this sequel cannot wait 14 years. We have no right to delay. When the state of society feels like a page out of Orwell's 1984, like it's starting to feel like we're back in 1964 or 1854, action is obligatory. We may live in the year 2018, but there are still freedom marches. Civil rights has never stopped. Black and brown lives matter. People are still fighting for the dignity to live without fear for their lives. Children are still fighting for the dignity to live without fear for their lives. This is America, Childish Gambino tells us. This is the America we contribute to. This is the America we can change. On Sunday, March 7th, 1965, John Lewis, a black man just 25 years old, marched for his voting rights across the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma, Alabama, was beaten by police and left for dead. On August 20th, 2014, at our very own convocation, that same John Lewis, now Representative John Lewis, welcomed many of us to Marquette for the first time and invited us to partake in what he calls a world house, a place where we all belong, and in this house we have one chore, and that is to make necessary trouble. Make necessary trouble. Recently, I walked where John Lewis marched that fateful Bloody Sunday 53 years ago. I felt the steel of the Edmund Pettus Bridge and gazed upon the path taken towards liberation, once obstructed not by a Red Sea, but one of blue. Here's something you may not know about that bridge in Zellmer. Etched into a thin black sheet of metal, drilled into the cross beams, worn and faded from time, are the words, "Made in Milwaukee." Well, aren't we all made in Milwaukee? You see, we are not walls, we are bridges, avenues of civil rights, freeways of social justice, and paths towards liberation. We are bridges. We are Milwaukee, and we are Marquette when we engage the gritty realities of this world that shake us to our core and make us question our roles as meaningful contributors to the world around us. When we wonder who in the world we will become and if we will ever make the difference we dreamed ourselves once making. When we engage again and again in God's messy work for justice, we may ask ourselves, are we enough? Remember that we are made in Milwaukee. We are champions of Jesuit higher education, and we are alumni and alumnae of Marquette University. Are we enough? We always have been. We still are, and we will always be bridges. Thank you, Milwaukee. Thank you, Marquette. And thank you, class of 2018.